too early.
Fucking Johnny Early.
Poor Sharon. She's been hearing that for years.
Yeah. No, she's like, what load? I should form a band with Don Was load, not load.
Oh.
Sorry.
Jesus. Do we have to be political? Do we have to be PC on here? Can you use profanity or not?
Do. Yeah, my brother is like anti-religion and politics.
So no swearing.
No, you can swear. Fuck yeah.
Swearing is good.
Welcome everybody. This is this week's Deer Club Zoom podcast. We want to welcome everybody. Billy Burrs, one of our early guests, curated. He's got quite the crew, and I'm going to just pass it off to our man Billy Burrs.
Hey guys, all right. Yo. All right, well, thanks for having me back. I tried to put together a diversified list of people as we kind of try to take a look at the universe here in the music business, in the pandemic, or the world that we're living in, or just the world that we're living in. So first off, I'll introduce a good friend of mine. We've worked together for many years at RCA back in the day, and he is now the senior vice president of promotion at Warner Records. They've changed their name, Warner Records, which is Dave Dyer. Welcome, Dave. Right on,
man.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thank you for taking the time. Next would be Schaefer, who's been a friend for many years, and he's done a varied things in the music business, but now is the senior vice president of global touring for AIG. So he's got a pretty big gig, and I'm sure very interesting with what's going on in his world right now. Very interesting. A very dear friend of mine. I was able
Bill,
to.
I just want to say I may be working in insurance at some point, but right now it's AIG.
Brother, I was over at Acme Foods. You know how much a bag. Wait, all right, you guys still there? Hello. Yep. All right, so I'll introduce.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay. Actually, I don't know. My screen said something, but I can't read with glasses on or with glasses off. I want to introduce a great buddy of mine. I was fortunate enough to attend his wedding in Dublin, Ireland. He plays in a internationally well-known band out of Dublin called Kodaline. My great friend Vinny May is joining us. He is the drummer in Kodaline. He's in Dublin, Ireland tonight. So welcome, Vinny.
Hello, guys. How's things?
All right.
Thanks for having me on.
Vinny.
You.
Yo, Vinny. Next up is another good friend of mine, who is the assistant program director of WFUV in the Bronx in New York City. And he's a storied radio guy, has an interesting story, and his name is Eric Gottlieb. And again, he's the assistant program director of publicly funded WFUV in New York City. Cool. Welcome, Eric.
Hello.
Eric. And next up is another.
Hello, Eric.
Nice porno stash, bro.
My Butch Vig impression.
Let's see. So next up, we have another good friend of mine who is extremely talented guitarist, lyricist, musician, hails from my hometown of Minneapolis, Minnesota. My buddy Jacobi Schmidt, who is professionally known as just Cobi, C-O-B-I. He's a great guy, and he's from Minnesota, so he's great. I love you. Hey, Cobi.
Yeah, Kobi.
Hey, Kobi.
Thanks for having me, man.
Nice to meet
You guys. Good to meet you guys. Some of you have met, some of you haven't.
you. Yeah.
We met in Billy's backyard a few years ago. For the big move, we hung out.
Yes, we did. Yeah. Indeed.
So Billy, where are you?
Yes,
Are you in New Jersey?
I'm right here.
Billy, you're in New.
I am. I'm sitting on my couch.
You're right there.
See. I'm right here.
Good. And what have you been doing?
You know what? It's been an interesting time, especially doing what I do. Promoting records to radio in this time when, and I'll actually, you're approaching these program directors much differently with some sort of sensitivity and some sort of whatever. And I was having this conversation with Dyer, who's on the chat with us today, and he said to me, "You know what, man? Fuck that." He's like, we send radio music for free, and they, they get to play it, and they do advertising around to make money. They got to give us an opportunity to do our jobs. And he was pretty much exactly right, putting it bluntly that, we still have to have our 5 minutes to try and promote our music and try and do what we're doing, even in a pandemic or out of a pandemic. The radio's still on the radio. I think more people may be listening to the radio right now because it is local. It's localized and you get local information as opposed to streaming or something else. So he made a very good point to me, and I took the kid gloves off a little bit and kept doing my job the way I used to, rather than kind of approaching things kind of gingerly,
Yeah, and part of that conversation though also was like, yeah, of course we give them the music and we want them to play it, and you got to be sensitive, but at the same time, like, we get to talk about music all day, man, and I can't allow anyone on either side of the table to act like that's a burden, right? Like, so many people in the world want to be talking about music for a living, and we get to do it. And so when my programmers are like, I don't have time or whatever, I just hit them with like, come on, man, I know you're busy, but like, this is a chance to unplug right now. We could, like, I'm not just hitting you on my records. Let's talk about music we like. Like, it's a great blessing. And that's the extension of that more hardcore conversation of, fuck you, man, we got to do our jobs.
Yeah, I noticed on Facebook and
Right.
stuff like Instagram, everybody's posting their top 10 records like a day. I'm seeing a lot of that the last 2-3 weeks, more than I've ever seen before. And there's some pretty good conversation of what people are listening to, or what really inspired people a lot. And I think it's because people are home and they're listening to a lot of music. How much Law and Order can you fucking watch? That was a joke.
You'd be surprised.
I can watch a lot of it.
Yeah.
Hey,
Dave, where are
Rich,
you? Are
so-
you out in Long Island?
Rich, go.
Yeah, we're in Long Island. We've been here since the beginning of March. Not going to go back to the city. Just don't want to get caught going up and down in an elevator with a bunch of strangers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
That's my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
It's scary.
When you walk
You guys,
up, right?
you guys
Stewart?
don't want to come into the city?
Yeah,
Is my connection bad?
I do the stairs. I think it's all a little wobbly today.
Yeah, it seems like
James,
it.
you there?
I'm going to move.
So Vinny,
That's the
Vinny,
trade-off when
are
you're
they,
all the way
are
out
they-
there.
Exactly.
Vinny, are they loosening things up in Ireland, number one? And number two, I'm curious, did you guys have to blow out a bunch of dates and a bunch of, you probably had a lot of lost income here, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like Ireland it kind of started to hit really bad, like in like mainland Europe, from I want to say kind of like into February, really, when the numbers in like Italy and Spain started to kind of really start to like skyrocket. So with like Ireland and the UK being really close, we were still doing promo in the UK, flying back and forth, up until pretty much like the start of March. And then the Irish government basically then kind of put a whole kind of lockdown, like a travel ban, basically, that lasted. It only just finished there on like 5th of May. So yeah, it's been kind of crazy. We had we're 3 songs into our album campaign, releasing our 4th album in June. So we had a lot of tour dates that we had to basically cancel and postpone until further on down the year, and then some until kind of next year, and we kind of still don't know. There's we've had shows that we had in May that we had to schedule to September, but those shows mightn't actually go ahead now in September of social distancing and like the venue sizes. We were playing 8 shows in a theatre in Dublin, so it's like a 1,600 cap theatre, but they're saying that with the whole social distancing thing, you'll probably only be able to fit like about a third of the people in there, like, you know. So those 8 shows then turn into like 24. So it's a bit weird about that kind of thing. So yeah, we've had to cancel like a 6-week European tour. We were meant to announce a US run for like 5 weeks, had to pull that as well. So yeah, it's been pretty shitty, pretty shit for live bands, like, you know, and all the other kind of artists and bands that we know. It's the same. It's just kind of everybody's sitting at home, like doing nothing. It's such a strange time.
No doubt.
Yeah, my wife manages Sunvolt, and they had a bunch of dates in April, May, and June. And I guess her situation was that, you know, they tried to reschedule, but you can't really do fall because all the venues are booked already. You know what I mean? So then you're looking at 2021. You know what I mean? So it's not just 3 months either. It's kind of the rest of the year, because you can't get a booking at the Bowery Ballroom in September, because it's already, you know, booked pretty much through. Vinny, we have a question for you about the record. So will physical copies come out in June?
No, is the short answer. All the kind of like, because we normally would like press vinyl and print kind of a limited amount of CDs, because obviously the market just kind of isn't there. But all the factories have been shut, like all the main factories in Germany and stuff, and any other kind of records printing places, pressing places are all kind of quite small in like Ireland and the UK and stuff. So the production hasn't been able to go ahead, although we've had artwork and everything kind of ready to go. So it's looking that we'll probably end up doing like a repackage kind of towards the end of like the year, basically, and then that's when we'll actually have physical copies, which is kind of weird, because like that's always an exciting part for an artist, and I'm sure Cobi can like back me up on this, that like holding your actual record, like, and having like that, like, is pretty amazing, because you're in a studio like working on computers for like 13 months of the year. So it's nice to actually have like the finished product and be able to play the record like yourself on your record player at home. And that's kind of something that's just been taken away from us, like. So but yeah, like, I suppose there's bigger fish to fry, you know. I suppose it's a small price that we have to kind of endure or whatever. So I suppose I'm not really gonna complain too much about it.
And you guys do signed copies too, right? You do that quite a bit.
Yeah, like that's kind of a big part, and has been like for like our audience, our key kind of demographic. When you look at our social media, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, like we're kind of, it's like 60-40 female, and it's 18 to 20, 26, 27 is kind of like our kind of, so young girls basically is our kind of key demographic. So they like having like signed CDs and signed vinyl and stuff. So yeah, it's going to be a bit weird, because we normally kind of bundle stuff together with like a t-shirt and ticket sales and stuff like that for upcoming concerts. But because we've had to cancel European tours pretty much until next year, it's definitely going to affect kind of income streams for sure.
Yeah.
So I have a question, guys.
Sorry, go ahead. Go, Dave, go.
Yeah, I was going to say for Rich, kind of, and I guess Vinny, maybe you as well, but like we've been hearing a little bit about geofencing live streams, and like even having specific merch for those dates, and then whether on the merch you even like allude to the pandemic, so you kind of have a nostalgia factor in it in the future. Like, is that a real thing? And what are the real conversations about geofencing live stream?
I mean, I think from the AEG side, I mean, you know, there's definitely a lot of conversations happening about what are the alternate, you know, revenue streams now that, you know, I don't think, you know, we're not sure there's going to be a live show this year, and that may extend into next year. You know, we've been rerouting and moving tours for the last, you know, couple months or however long it's been, and you know, we don't, you know, we can say we think this tour is going to play in April of 21, but we don't really know, right? I mean, until I think a lot of large scale events probably won't come back until there's a vaccine. And you know, every state government seems to have deemed, you know, the live entertainment business and live entertainment is the least essential thing, you know, in the state, right? Which is always makes us feel good for doing what we do and devoting our lives to. But you know, so there's a lot of different conversations about, you know, streaming, geo targeted streams. You know, obviously the fashionable thing that everyone's talking about in live right now is the drive-in concept and whether that's going to happen. And I know it's happened in Denmark and in parts of Europe, and you know, people are announcing it here. You know, and as a company, we're kind of looking into everything, and we haven't decided or made any decisions on how we're going to proceed with anything. You know, just it's a lot of conversations, a lot of calls, and truthfully, I think we're going to let some other people try to do it. You know, see how it goes first and see how we can make it better, because I think there's going to be a lot of, you know, bad experiences in all of these, you know, whether it's geo-targeted or drive-ins or whatever. And, you know, we're just going to, even crowdless, you know, even fanless events, you know, let's see how it happens with sports if and when that comes back. And that's, you know, almost guaranteed to be fanless for the next, you know, 6-8 months, you know. So let's see how that goes. And, you know, and then we'll start making decisions. But yeah, we're, you know, a lot of our day to day is talking to agents and managers and, you know, who are all in the same, asking the same questions and all want to know what the alternative, you know, revenue streams could be. And it's just, there's no simple answer, as I'm sure you guys are all dealing with too, you know, I mean, but it's a fun time in the sense because it's something different than what we've been doing. But at the same time, I would like nothing more than to go see a show tonight at a club or a theater or an arena, because going 2 months without going to a show feels unnatural to me. You know, going 4 weeks without getting on a plane seems like I live in a foreign, you know, like I live in a different universe. So I think we all want, you know, live world to get back to normal and get guys on buses and get people out on tour. But, you know, again, there's a bigger thing that I don't think live streaming is going to really ever replace the live experience.
True.
Especially through shitty little computer speakers that everyone's watching a lot of these things on. Although it's weird because never have I had a similar experience to watching Pornhub live as I have to see so many musicians live streaming. Sometimes I'm not sure which window I'm looking at, but.
Hey, Kobi, how did this, first of all, how are things in LA? Probably same as here on lockdown, but how did this affect you, man? Because I know you had your EP coming and a bunch of stuff happening. What's your status? How about you? Did you have to cancel a bunch of upcoming dates and shit too?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I had South by, that got blown out. I had a bunch of other dates in the summer that got blown out. And not only that, but my agent at Paradigm lost his job. And so right now I don't even have an agent. So I don't even know when this all gets back in. I don't even know who I'm going to be with or whatever. So, you know, that's the problem when we all start losing our agents. It's like, who's going to book the tour? You know, it's probably not as big of a problem for, you know, acts on a really high tier that have really huge audiences, because they'll always have an audience. But for an act like me, who's definitely more of like, I suppose, a smaller niche artist, it's a little more difficult to be able to navigate how to get back out there and like what that's going to be. So for me, it's definitely looking onto the online world. But to someone's point just a minute ago, it sounds like shit. Like when you do a live stream, I did a YouTube live stream and I got, you know, like a whole audio setup here for it, thinking it was going to sound great. And then I listened back to it. I was like, this sounds like shit. This is not how I want to be represented, you know, as a musician, as an artist. You know, it's not the same as a live show at all. So, you know, I don't know. It's just really strange waters. You know, I'm just turning into the creative aspect of the studio right now and just totally being a studio rat. So, you know, that's one advantage I suppose some of us studio people have, is we're used to kind of being locked down anyway in the studio for months and weeks. So I don't know, man. It's just taking it one day at a time, and I don't know, we'll see what happens. I sure would like to get back out and do some live shows though. That's definitely like my lifeblood.
Right.
Who was your agent?
My agent was Jason Kupperman over at Paradigm, and Marty Diamond. He was working under Marty Diamond. So, Marty still
Good guy.
said he still wants me on Paradigm, but I'm not sure what that looks like or what that means yet. And hopefully Jason comes back when this is kind of all over and he can, get back to work, but we don't know what that looks like right now. So.
Yeah, that's
Are
pretty
you
brutal,
writing
man.
and recording new music?
Yeah, always recording new music. So I actually got an Airbnb locked out for a couple months. So that's where I'm right now. I'm up in Topanga Canyon at an Airbnb. And I just set up like a little home studio here. So just been up here recording every day.
Great. Is it, you feel like inspiration because of the scenario, or is it just you power through no matter what?
I'm not really feeling inspiration from the whole COVID scenario, but I, find other ways to get inspired anyway, because, like this cabin is really cool and I'm in a really cool place up in the canyon. So being here is definitely really inspiring. And, you always find ways to get inspired as an artist, but I don't think COVID is really inspiring to me.
Go ahead, Bill.
So I was just up there in Topanga Canyon up there. They don't have marijuana, do they?
No, none of that.
Just saying, 'cause I get inspired back to the 60s. We're talking, okay. I just wanted to check in because I know it's legal in LA, and I was just checking it out.
We don't have that here.
All right, I was just checking because I know you, and that would never happen. That's what I mean. Yeah.
I didn't mean inspired by the COVID so much as is it influencing your writing, and you know what I mean? Is your music different because of what's going on in the world, or are you just writing the way you write and it's just different every time?
I mean, that's a pretty good question. I think it's just kind of different every time, and I'm writing the way I write. But that's not to say that I haven't taken some inspiration from the topic, I suppose, and what's going on to some degree.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, let me ask you a question now, because this is something from a radio side of thing. And so you're on a college campus, right? You're a publicly funded radio station. You count on donations to keep things flowing.
I hear that.
I know you can't give as much information as you can, but it's got to be pretty stressful. I mean, our kids coming back to school. Is it, or how's the fund drive?
Well, like I said, man, we were talking about this earlier. I was kind of the, Chicken Little, I think, initially the situation, because I'm not my natural disposition is negative and pessimistic. So I was just like, I was like, yo, Cuomo's going to shut down the state. Look what's going on in China. We got a lot of planes in the air. It's coming this way. And, and people started to get on the same page about this. So initially we developed a plan to start broadcasting kind of, remotely, figure out what that is. So we were already testing way ahead of the curve, of the curve. And so that, once we had that in place, personally, I felt a lot better. But yeah, Fordham University is the campus that we're on. And they were like, yo, we don't want to be liable for anything. So shut this shit down. Classes, they requested everybody leave. They shut everything down. Technically, the station, because we lease it, I think from what I understand from them, we could get on if we had to, but there's no reason for us to be there in light of an emergency or technical issue. But right now we're sort of just like routing through the station. All of our DJs are all over the metropolitan area in New York, and we're still rocking and rolling. Our membership, as far as I know, has been pretty steadfast. We've been figuring out different events to do online, but it's been real touch and go with the technology. And it feels like the last month or two have been day to day in terms of what's going on. So that's sort of where we're at. We're still moving forward. To Dave's point, we have a new initiative that we're kicking off in June, tentatively. That has nothing to do with what's going on here. We're trying to we look at ourselves as like, we're not 10/10 wins. We're not delivering news 24/7 or anything like that, even though we have a news department. We're trying to give people a place to just hear some rock and roll, some music discovery, and like take their mind off of this craziness for a little while anyway. And that's been, from what I understand, the benefit of the station. A lot of people have been appreciative of that. But it's still fucking crazy, man. I mean, like, I want to be in the studio. I don't like. I got a 2-year-old, and my wife is like on a medical team researching this stuff, and I'm trying to like talk about music at the same time. And that's why I had the screen off for a while, because like we're changing the kid because she shit her pants because she's 2. Like, you're not supposed to have that at work. It's insane.
You know what? That happens with me and Stewart all the fucking time. Not an idiot.
I was gonna say, talking about shit in their pants. You know, this is John Yellow's podcast, right?
Fair enough. But so that, you know, that's kind of where it's at.
During Billy's
Sounds like you're in management.
South by Southwest, Stewart shit at least twice.
Oh,
Definitely during
God.
the last story.
But yeah, man, I mean, I think to like what Rich said earlier, anyone's advocating like, oh, it's gonna get better. Like, hope is not a strategy, and you just need to be planning on, we're gonna be dealing with this for a while, pending miracle cure, you know. And last time I checked, you really can't take OxyClean to get this clean this out of your system. So I you know, we're gonna have to figure out what the hell to do. I went to school for music. I can definitely empathize for a lot of the artists out there that are sort of working class bands and working class artists. Like I like Spotify. I think it's great. It would be great if they just took one for the team for, I don't know, a month or two and up their, you know, percentage that they paid everybody out at or something, because I don't know how the hell's like you're eating your own crop, whatever that mixed metaphor is. At some point, you know, we're going to have to figure out how to diversify streams fairly, even if at the top they make less money, because at some point the product is not going to be available, depending on how long this continues. No offense to Kobi calling you the product, you know what I mean? Like the song, like you have to eat, man. Like you have to fucking eat at some point.
Yeah.
And if you can't get on the road, how are you going to eat? You know?
Yeah. But this is like, I like, it was something that I was talking to like the other guys in the band about, because it's just a bit weird because like, 80, maybe like 90% of like our income, like and how we survive as like people, as like just like got a house, I have a wife and all that shit. So like where we get money from is from touring, from playing live. And if that is all just, that's like, it's just the rug is just from under us. So we're kind of left in this really precarious position, like where it can't really, my band have like, we've been touring solidly for like kind of 7 years, so we had kind of like cash reserves essentially like saved up, and nobody bought anything really fucking stupid like Ferraris and shit. So we had like money in the bank to kind of like keep us kind of going, but like that's gonna run out like eventually, like, you know. And then what the fuck happens? Like I don't know where like a 30-year-old musician is gonna fucking get a job, like, you know, because they didn't go to college, I don't have a degree, this is all I know. I like play drums in a rock band, like, you know. So it's kind of really fucked kind of position. And like Eric said, Spotify, we've got big numbers on Spotify, but like Spotify really pay you fucking jack shit, like, you know. So you can't really make a living off what Spotify.
Have you guys tried the donate thing on Spotify yet, Vinny?
No, we haven't. No, I think our manager or publishing company sent us an email about that there. So that could be something. Like we got Benji from Good Charlotte messaged us like last week saying about like, because we started to try do these like live streams on like that everybody's been doing, but it kind of sounds a bit shitty. So we started like pre-recording them and then just putting them out on YouTube so that the audio quality and the video quality is more stable, it's better, like, you know. And then we just kind of pre-ask kind of fans to send us in questions, so at least we have some sort of control over how it sounds and not just using the microphone on your laptop or whatever. But he was messaging us saying that he has a company now where they're trying to like ticket people's live streams and stuff, you know. And so that could be an option for some people, but at the same time, this has kind of been going on for like 4 weeks now, and 2 months, like 8 weeks now. So I think I don't know if people are getting like fed up of the live stream anyway, and they're getting kind of bored of it, like, you know. So you need to try figure out something to try and reinvent it, to try and get some other form of revenue into like touring musicians.
Yeah.
Who's got the hologram technology? Where you bring that back? Just being the show in your home.
You could go out and do a tour with Tupac. It'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fuck it.
I want to see Prince again anyway.
Hey,
Fantastic.
Johnny, I have something interesting I want to bring up that I want to ask Dyer about. So, doing what I do now, coming from the major label side and being at the Syndicate and, quarterbacking projects, from my experience for a bunch of smaller labels and doing different things. And I found that, we had a bunch of business in the pipeline, things I was going to work on, things we are going to do. This shit happens and boom, the brakes are on. Nobody's spending money. We don't want to take records to radio. We're not releasing albums. And I think what Dave's done at Warner and his team is really impressive because they weren't scared of what was going on. And Dave, I'm going into like Dua Lipa and how you guys did that. He had a pop artist that, this was a risky venture on their part, but I'll let you tell it, Dave. But, her record was slated to come out and they put it out. And, he's got two of her singles in the top 10 right now at pop radio, arguably one of the biggest artists of this year. And just tell me a little bit, Dave, about why you guys did, how you came to that conclusion in a time when so many record companies with major labels are pulling that stuff back because they're scared.
Look, in all honesty, a lot of that was driven by Dua, because the conversation obviously had to come up. It's like, this is a weird time to do this. And more importantly, up until that point, everybody was pushing their albums back. And because listen, it's not just that, you can't make a video, right? Like, how do you make a video in this day and age? And like, how do you handle some of that stuff? So it was more than just, are we going to put the album out? But then what do the optics look like around that for the next 9 to 12 months, if that's the album cycle for her? And to her credit, she was very adamant about that. She made a feel good record, and it's called Future Nostalgia. And if you hear it, you can hear there's a lot of disco in it. There's a lot of like throwback sounds, right? So she's like, this is a time, because it's going to sound familiar to people's ears, but it's fun and it's upbeat and it's going to make people want to dance. So we're going to put it out. And it was highly successful, and radio gravitated towards it because it also kind of spoke the language that they were trying to speak, especially at pop radio, in terms of being a feel-good station. To Eric's point, radio, a lot of pop radio hasn't really gravitated towards being overly news focused. They are trying to be overly local, and they're trying to be more specific to their listeners. Right. But which, by the way, at pop radio, they probably should have been doing all along. But they're not like, it's not COVID. But they are like, they've got interesting segments where they're, the girls are talking about, how they're doing their makeup and how they're doing their hair and stuff like that in this day and age where they can't go, one of the morning show girls on a local station, spent a lot of time talking about, there's like 7 different things that she has to do to get ready that she normally would source out. She can't do that. She has to take care of now. Simple things like doing her nails and mani and pedis and shit like that. So the music spoke to what radio was doing. All of it lined up, and we were really lucky. But I think a lot of it had to do with the bravery of the artist and the company supporting that, and then being able to get behind it. And then we've got like JoJo. People know JoJo from 10 plus years ago, having a really big record, and she's making a comeback. And this was going to get in the way of her record too. And she felt the same way. She's like, this is my comeback record. I'm going to put it out. We put out the single. It's doing great at Rhythm and Top 40. But more importantly, she has this song called Comeback that she had Tory Lanez on. And she and Tory got on the phone and said, let's make a video. And she made a video at home, and he contributed on his side at home and made an incredible video that you can't really tell was made at home. It's very professional quality. And because she was willing to take risks, because she was more comfortable at home than she would have been on a set, she even went farther than she might normally go. And a lot of that's about being risque, but it's mostly about her comfort level as an artist. Right. And everybody's talking about JoJo, which is something that we didn't necessarily expect because people haven't talked about her in a long time. So there's a lot of that, and it's balancing, and it's really ultimately about the artist and their own willingness to stretch out, be creative, be brave, and then just have us as a support system to facilitate where and when we can.
Right. Cool. Makes sense.
Billy, remember my artist Roan, the Syndicate was going to do, do that, and that was going to come out, I guess, in October or something, or September. And then remember, we had that conversation and you gave me the both sides of, you know, the label wanted to push the record back, but we talked about it. And I thought you really brought up both sides really well. You know, like the benefits of releasing, you know, not waiting and waiting, you know, because you laid it out pretty good for me.
Yeah, well, I think it, as Dave said, it has a lot to do with the artist, and you know, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. You know, you could you can put it out right now and go and do when it's maybe a little more chaotic. But if you're that confident about the music, much like Dave was saying with Dua, and she said, "Fuck it, let's do this." You know, I'm not going to be scared of this, and my music is fun and it'll take people's mind off it. And they went for it and they did it. Then there was other people that say they want to wait, but if everybody's waiting, you know, if everybody's waiting till September or let's say January 2021 when everybody can tour again, then everybody drops their record. Well, now you're really fucked because everybody's going to the same spot. Just like Rich, I mean, because I want to say to Rich too, like it's like I think about things like it's one thing like Vinny was saying, social distancing in the venues and this and that. And, you know, what used to be 2,400 people is now going to be 800 or 900. You know what I mean? At a gig, and then you got to do 13 instead of 4 or whatever the case may be. Rich, do you think? And I know this is all speculative, but in my mind, I think there won't be a festival like a ACL or whatever, until there's a vaccine or something of that sort, right? I mean, you're never going to get, and even maybe those festivals won't look the same, right?
It certainly feels that way. I mean, as of this moment, you know, we're still, you know, Coachella's and Stagecoach are still planned for October. You know, I know, you know, our festival team is in conversations with cities and, you know, and the government's trying to figure that out. You know, a lot of you know, Bonnaroo's still scheduled, I think, for late September. You know, there have been rescheduled festivals that still, you know,
right, that's good.
Still are there. I mean, like a lot of it, I guess, depends on state, you know, regulations and how they're going to test people and take temperatures and all that. But yeah, I mean, it seems logical to think that festivals won't look the same until there's until there's an actual vaccine. But you know, some states, you know, they're trying to do this show in Arkansas on tomorrow. That's, you know, where, you know, they took a 1,200 cap room and are making it like, you know, 80 tickets or something. Like, but, you know, I would ask Vinny and Kobi, like, you guys don't want to play to quarter full venues. I mean, like, you know, when I was a manager, quarter full venues, I get threatened to get fired every time. I mean, it's like, nobody wants to voluntarily play, you know, to an empty room.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's a bad experience for everybody involved. I mean, I think everyone is trying to rush back and be the first to think that they solved something, but it's not, you know, for us, like we're going to wait until we can do it at the standard that we're used to doing it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Hey, Rich, we're talking about the venues, but what about for the musicians traveling there? Like, what about a tour bus or a van or like?
Yeah.
Does anyone?
Well, I've asked that question to agents and managers too, and I still manage a band called Chromeo, so I still, you know, deal with all that stuff. But like, you know, what is a tour bus going to look like? You know, back in the day, you'd squeeze 12 people on a tour bus, and you know, because you can only afford one bus, and now it's I don't think that's going to happen for a minute again, unless there's a vaccine and then everything changes, you know. But it's going to be really interesting what the economics of it all look like at the end of this, and you know, whether bands can afford to tour in a you know, van and trailer anymore. Just because they can't, you know, they might need 2 vans, and that's a cost that they're not gonna be able to afford anyway. And you know, whether labels are gonna want to actually give double the tour support, that feels unrealistic too. Just, you know, everyone's tightening everything, so it's gonna be, you know, the short answer, Stewart, is I don't know. No one knows, right? And until we, you know, we have I have calls every day that the next day I regret what I said. You know, it's like, what I said the day before has already changed. It's already, you know, Fauci makes me look like an idiot. Everybody makes me look like an idiot. And so,
story of my
like,
life, dude.
What we say here, it could change, you know, tomorrow. It could change in an hour, you know. And so, until we have to rely on smarter people and greedier people than us, who are all racing to find the vaccines for this, to you know, to figure it out. And then I think we'll be able to slowly, you know, open up to business as usual.
But also, if I was a bus driver, you know, if I was driving the bus, I don't know how psyched I'd be to, you know, drive the tour bus and have, you know, these 5 guys play in front of, like, you know, 50, 70, 400 people, and then get back on the bus and you know, I'm stuck there driving. That seems scary too for them. It just seems like, you know, you're right in the middle of it. So, yeah.
And also, it seems like you know, with each state kind of calling its own shots at this point, if it goes that way, would you be comfortable if, say, a state opens up, would you be comfortable sending a band there, you know? And, well, like, how does that like figure in? Is it just whoever's game goes?
I mean, look, you know, and I'm not an artist, but I know, you know, those guys can talk to it. I mean, this is how, you know, most artists earn all of their money, right? You know, I mean, sure, there are, you know, the upper tier of artists that make money in publishing and make money on masters and own their masters and all that, but most artists and most management companies and obviously every agent, their livelihood is dependent on touring. And so, you know, I think some are more apt to rush out than others because of their, you know, financial situation. But I don't think anyone, I mean, no manager, no artist that I've spoken to recently is like, you know, in a massive rush, other than they just can feel the financial crush coming, you know, however many months or weeks or days down the road. So, you know, I think, you know, different states are going to have different rules, and some states are going to open up faster. And, you know, but how many shows can you have in Montana? I mean, like, you know, there's only so many days and only so many venues. So, it's again, people are going to try to do stuff. To me, it's like patience is going to pay. I think will pay off the most.
Right on.
You know,
I
you
got a question for the radio people on here as an artist. So is it harder to get a record on the radio now with all this going on, or is it somewhat easier? And why is it the way it is?
From my perspective, you know, truthfully, I feel like it's more or less the same. I mean, we're relying on a combination of metrics and looking at, you know, discussing, you know, what the chart looks like, talking about what the story behind an artist is, and then depending on who the promoter is, you know, with that relationship, what kind of like information they can provide to help talk it through. I will say we're getting hit up on email, like just getting inundated. And it's like, today's point, I'm like, dude, like you're gonna need a breakthrough. Like an email right now is not gonna cut it. Like I got 5 times the amount of email just from my coworkers just to get through what normally would be a passing through conversation. But I think it depends on the format. I think, you know, working in AAA, we pride ourselves on trying to deliver stuff to a more local, open-minded community. So I think in that sense, you have a better shot versus like commercial hip hop and R&B. The flip side of that though is like a lot of AAA stuff is better recorded. You can make a fucking hip hop and R&B album through like a jail cell phone and like it'll go top 10. So like they don't like, there's certain like, you know, barriers of entry that are different too. But
Sure,
that's the way that I look at it. Yeah.
So is radio suffering at all from this whole thing? Like is
Short-term-
advertising getting cut, or like what's the deal with that?
Well, because it's not for my station, we're public supported, so we're generating enough enthusiasm and being a place to not hear about it all day long. That right now we're fine. I wish I could tell the future, because then I would play the stocks. But that's all we're at.
Dude,
I mean, if you ask me personally, what I think is going on is like I think, like Rich says, there's gonna have to be some other models that are going to have to be gap fixes for the short term, because you know this isn't just music. Look at TV. Like nothing's going to air next year unless it's all going to be animated. So then that affects licensing. Then it affects all publishing for even other art. You know what I mean? So like
domino
look
effect
down the road. Yeah.
Davey,
That's where I'm at.
Dave, I think you would probably agree with me, and this is on your line, Kobe, and what you're talking about, Eric, is like, I mean, if you see it in the world that Dave and I live in, whether it be iHeart or a Cumulus or whatever, I mean, radio is being affected in a financial matter where it's like, and Dave, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, all of the higher paid people at Cumulus are all required to take, you know, a 1 week furlough or whatever, or a 2 week furlough with no pay throughout the next 90 days. And they're doing something. What's the deal at iHeart, Dave? Similar though. I mean, everyone has to either take a pay cut or take like 2 weeks of unpaid vacation. I mean, there have been a ton of layoffs.
Yeah, when you break it down on the commercial radio level, at least what I'm getting from these guys is it's a couple of things. Their listenership has changed, right? Because there's no in-car listening anymore. So it's all changed to being at home. Just a sidebar, a really interesting thing that the record labels are doing. We're finding that like Echoes and Google Home and like these smartphones and smart assistant phones, their sales are up like 6% in the last 2 months alone. We're talking about like 60 million people in America, right? So when we have a song named ILY, we got to change the name of the fucking song so people can search for it at home to I love you, because otherwise they're not finding it. Like, remember when you used to call your radio station and be like, hey man, will you play that song I love you? And they're like, which one? There's 1,000 of them. Well, the smart speakers are having the same problem. But with radio on the revenue side, it's really, the other thing we're hearing is that like after 7 o'clock, people aren't listening to pop radio anymore. They're at home with their families, they're watching TV, you know, so you can see late night television viewing is up 40% right now, which is incredible. You're seeing people change their listening habits. So we're really trying to kind of get deeper into what those habits are so we can accommodate those habits, because we're usually in the business of creating the habits and trying to address them. Now we're just trying to respond more than anything. I don't know if that really answered your question.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah,
That's fascinating.
This is like top of the second inning in determining what the hell we're supposed to be doing. So I still feel like that is sort of where our journey as a overall industry. And like Dave said, like we can't forecast yet because there's no model to rely on for what works and what doesn't work necessarily. But I mean, we've been pumping up our own station on our program Long for Live reads like, hey, ask a smart speaker to play WFUV, because our online listening jumped significantly, and we never really leaned that hard into promoting it because we're still heavy on in-home office, on office use and at home and in cars. And all of a sudden just it went from like web to smart speaker and cell phone and all these other apps that people use to tune in, like TuneIn and the NPR music app. So now we're trying to promote that, but like I don't even know if that's going to be the same. I mean, like it could be fucking anarchy in like 6 months. It could be like Mad Max. So who knows?
Right. And so and by the way, I didn't answer this question, Billy, but the other part of it for like the pop stations that I deal with, their advertisers have disappeared, not because it wasn't a valuable place to advertise, because obviously we all believe it is, but their advertisers disappeared because imagine the local restaurant and the local barber shop, like all those places they're not advertising. They had to pull that shit immediately. So the national brands are still kind of there, but they've lost a lot of their income just simply because the local guys that, you know, the local sales guys have all these deals set up, and this whatever the storefront or whatever it happens to be locally is like, hey man, I'm closed. So I certainly don't want to spend this money on advertising. That's where they're being hurt on a local level.
You know, it's interesting. Randy Malloy, who owns CD 102 in Columbus, Ohio, which is, you know, pretty cool, plays a lot of new music on the alternative side of things. Great station, but, you know, independently owned, no corporate backing, no anything. Their advertising, you know, all but dried up, much like you're talking about. And that's their livelihood here. So being a smart guy, he started giving all of his loyal clients that had advertised with him forever free advertising. So that in the point that when this is over, I mean, how loyal are you going to be when, you know, I mean, you're still, even if, you know, whatever, if the car dealership, it's whatever, whoever can advertise that can do business, he's giving it to him free, obviously, in hopes that, you know, when this is over, they come back in tenfold. I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, because if you're going down anyway. You might as well go down as a good guy, you know? I mean, fuck it, right?
But Eric, I have a question for you. Are there models for how AAA radio reacted towards the Spanish flu in 1918?
Well, dude, it's so great that you said that, actually, because I was joking with Billy. I was like, the last time that there was an issue like this, we were like, there wasn't an industry. It was fucking player pianos. Like anybody that was building a player piano was concerned, and that's it. Maybe the guy that wrote publishing music that's it. So we don't have anything to like look back on at all. So it's super new.
Yeah, me and Stewart's side hustle was to start a player piano company.
Yeah.
Hey man, desperate times, you know, desperate
Dude,
times.
I'm working on 2 spec scripts. Like I've never even done this before, but I'm like, I know a guy I could send it to. Maybe that I could get some scratch that way. I'm like, I'm trying to figure out any other side hustle just to put some put some acorns in the ground.
Yeah.
I've gotten really good at rearranging my fridge.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm 2 more gin and tonics away from finding out what the fuck Bitcoin is.
Yeah.
How does the 2-year-old like gin and tonic, Dad?
So yeah, did you see? All right, Saturday Night Live had like the most accurate parody I've ever seen. They had a song called "Let Kids Drink" on Saturday, and yeah, I'm on board with that. I mean, she's got her teeth are coming in, and we're teaching her how to potty train in a 1-bedroom in Brooklyn. It's crazy.
Wow.
But it's all right. You know, it's all good.
Rich, just because like from like the European side of things with touring, like our management team look after like Wolf, Ellis, and Alt J as well. And so he kind of has these kind of like meetings with other like agents and other promoters and stuff. And what he's here, I just want to know, is it like the same in America? But they're talking about like really kind of putting guarantees for shows and for festivals and stuff like that. Do you think that's going to have then like a knock-on effect for like the bigger artists, because they're not going to have the guarantees then to take the bigger productions and stuff like that? And do you think that will have a knock-on? Because I'm just guessing it's going to have the like this kind of effect in Europe where like bands that go out with like trucks and like 4 buses filled with crew and stuff like that, like all of a sudden, because the guarantees are cut in half, like all of a sudden everybody's kind of, it seemed over the past couple of years, everybody's production was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But now, if they don't have the money that's going to be there in case that the shows don't sell out, like then, do you think that's going to have a knock-on effect for that?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, you know, I think a lot of us can agree that the live business was getting kind of fat and out of control, right? I mean, you know, the production elements were getting bigger and bigger, and, you know, you'd see bands that, you know, playing, you know, smaller rooms that had, you know, arena level production, and it felt a little bit like overkill, right? And, you know, I can say that it's hard to give a blanket answer to that, Vinny, because, you know, obviously every tour is different, and you know, if there's a tour that, you know, historically is selling out every, you know, is you know, if an act's a stadium act and decide to play arenas, you know, you're confident that those are going to sell, right? And I think it's, you know, there's going to be more caution in how deals are made. You know, I don't think I don't think anyone's saying across the board that every deal is going to change or going to get cut in half by any stretch. But I think, you know, as we come out of this, and as, you know, I mean, the unemployment rate today is 22 million people in the United States, you know, and like, as, you know, as we come out of this and people's dollars are spread, you know, we have to be mindful of ticket prices. We have to be mindful of everything. You know, when you start lowering ticket prices, you start lowering the you know, the gross and therefore the net and the guarantee. So, you know, I think, you know, it's going to require agents and managers and artists to be flexible and I think somewhat creative on, you know, how deals are made and what incentives can get thrown into deals to, you know, to benefit you for selling the tickets. But I think the days, at least short term, of like big fat guarantees and promoters taking losses on tours is at least is on hold, if not gone forever. Because, you know, look, AEG and Live Nation, I know are, you know, these giant, you know, concert promoters, and, you know, think of them what you will. I mean, you know, I know, you know, we all love independent music promoters and independent music too, but, you know, these big corporations, but like, they're still have employees and have people that, you know, their livelihoods are based on their income. And, you know, AEG is singularly owned by somebody. You know, it's not a publicly traded company. So, you know, we have a guy that owns our company that, you know, at a certain point is going to say, I can't afford to lose all this money, you know, like you know, we have to be smarter about the deals we make. We have to, you know, every tour needs to turn a profit at AEG. I mean, that's sort of how we operate. You know, I can't speak for how Live Nation operates, but I think that they're in the same boat of like, you know, deals need to be smarter, and it got out of control, and maybe the live industry needed a reset, and, you know, maybe in 5-10 years we're back to where we were last year. But, you know, I think for now anyone who's like kind of living in the old school of like, this is what I got last time, they're in for a rude awakening. Anybody that's, you know, sort of flexible, I think will find a way to survive.
Cool.
And I think to your point though, like, productions are going to have to, you know, like design fees are going to have to go down. Everything's going to have to scale down. You know, you can't pay the same to a designer today that you paid to them, you know, 3 months ago. So I think you'll see all that scale down, you know, proportionally.
Don't you think it'll be more difficult for these artists to tour as well? Because I mean, given the financial, you know, ramifications that are out there right now, there's not going to be as many venues. I mean, everybody's going to, once everything's clear, I'm just talking like club artists, not stadium tours, but I'm thinking, the guy, Kobi, who goes and, plays 7th Street Entry in Minneapolis and plays Shuba's in Chicago and these clubs, like everybody's going to want that slot and everybody's going to want to go and half the venues are going to be gone. I think it's going to be, again, an entirely different landscape.
I don't know that half the venues are going to be gone if you mean like closed. I think there's going to be a massive, as John, I think, alluded to earlier, there's a massive avails and traffic issue that's going to come, and, this onslaught of artists that have moved 2020 into 2021 or into, even in that, and that's on all levels. I mean, I talk to arenas all day and like it's some of the, there's one arena that he said he had like 13 tours coming in March of next year, plus basketball, plus hockey. That's basically the arena's full every night. And it never happens, maybe the Garden, right? That Garden, Staples, a handful, but this was a major market, but like a secondary major, not one of your top 5 markets. And, so
that's good.
Traffic is going to be a major issue. And I don't know that, look, I know there's a lot of news out there that a lot of independent venues are having trouble and that's true for sure. Everybody is. Our venues are having trouble because there's no income, right? There's no bar sales. There's no nothing. So I hope that none of those independent venues go away because, like I said, Chromeo plays them. They're important to developing artists into arena acts and stadium acts. So, we want them all to be around forever. But it's going to be really interesting where it all kind of ends up.
Yeah, no doubt.
Is there any sense of what's happening to all these people who work at the venues? Like our friends who work at Bowery Ballroom or whatever, like, do we know, are they just all file for unemployment or are they just?
Again, I think every venue is different. I mean, I know Live Nation, supposedly went through a lot of, furloughs this week, just like, WME and Paradigm have it so far. I think venues, any business in any world where there's no income, you're gonna have to make, changes to staff, right? And so I think, to this point, at AEG and all of our venues, like, everybody's, took a, pay cut, but, at this point, everyone's still employed. So that's a great thing and we hope it continues. And I hate to be rude, but I actually have to jump. I'm sorry, I thought this was only an hour, but I have to jump to a meeting. But I just want to say thank you for having me. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Rich.
Thanks so much.
Hope to see you all soon in real life.
Rich.
Good luck with the baby.
Thanks, man.
Bye.
Thanks, Rich.
Hey, Johnny.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, venues and live touring and all this and radio. How do you see like record budgets? Like,
hold on, Bella wants to say hello to Dave.
Bella!
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. How do you like your new house in your new city?
Good, yes.
Tell him.
Yeah, it's good.
Say hello to Dave.
There has been in this town.
God, I really am washed up, dude. Over. It's
Tell us the
over.
homie, man. Come on.
It's over. Hi, Bella.
I can't believe you ignored Billy.
You said what?
Yeah, of course you said. Of course he did.
That was the setup.
I'm doing business here. Can you go away now?
Sorry.
Okay.
Ow.
Hey, buddy. So
She's
adorable.
the spec. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not really sure about budgets at this point because the dyno thing was already set, 2 months ago or 3 months ago. The thing I'm going to do in Nashville, this guy Parker Millsap, who's fantastic on 30 Tigers, we negotiated that in January. And the stuff that's still bubbling that's going to happen, I mean, I don't know yet, but nothing really has changed yet for me. You know what I mean? If you know what I mean. I'm still working off of pre-pandemic deals. If that changes in July and August, September, maybe I'll know better. But right now I haven't, and I mean, I haven't been super busy, but considering a lot of people aren't working at all, I've been lucky to work 4 weeks in the last 2 months. I think it's kind of great, so I've been, knock wood, I've been super lucky. so far. So I don't know. What about you? I mean, do you have any sense of like the movie stuff? What's going on with all your
The
movies?
movie stuff, all the movie stuff and television stuff that I've is really done, and there's actually no conversation yet. I mean, there's like crazy, you know, like the touring stuff. They're talking about going to drive-ins, right? Okay, you know, like for film stuff, they're talking about quarantining a cast for 14 days. I don't see that. That's like kind of putting people in a room in a hotel, and you.
And
can't
what about
come out.
crowd scenes? Like, how do you do a crowd scene now?
Well, some of that stuff, you know, you can get fancy with. You can green screen. You can. They do that anyway, but you know, largely, you know, all of our stuff that we all do, we're last back. I think we're all going to be last back.
Right.
You know, and the fucked up thing is we are essential. I know we're not essential like first line people, EMTs, all that stuff, but art and music, it's gonna rear its head that how important it really is. But I see us being like really at the end of this whole cycle, being the last people back.
Yeah.
And, you know, so, you know, catalogs will get mined, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, there'll be reissues and new boxes, and people will, you know, hopefully you guys who are in studios now are going to be making music, and there'll be a new sound that comes out of this era, possibly. You know, the sound of it'll have a name, just like whatever kind of visual stuff, TV, and if there is any, it's going to have a look, and it's going to, you know, and some of it will be amazing, and some of it will really suck because it's not going to have any real human, you know,
Interaction.
yeah. And you know, I'm actually working on something right now for a TV show that I work on, where we're doing one of these, you know, like virtual orchestras where everyone is in a different room, and I'm producing it, and it's kind of bizarre because, you know, I'm recording an orchestra. We're doing a couple of R&B things, but it's all these players in all these rooms, and I just started doing it, and I have no idea what it's going to sound like, and it is really not fun. I mean, I'm up for it, and I'm up to see what could happen, but
Is it like sterile?
Sorry.
I said, is it like sterile? I mean, like there's no energy in the room because everybody's in another areas. It's sterile.
Well, it's completely sterile, even though I'm trying to, like, you know, have a Zoom with the whole orchestra and talk to them like if I was out on the floor doing a date with them, and, you know, kind of, or the R&B thing where we'll just talk it through and get a vibe and blah, blah, blah. But then people are going to go off and do their thing. And either I'm going to find out that they're better off without me, or they're better with me. And I'll get back to you on that when I hear this shit. Because it's possible, hey, maybe, you know, maybe I've been fucking it up all along. So
Right.
But it is gonna, I think, result in an era that has a sound. And I think when John was asking Kobi about the, you know, is what's going on now influencing maybe what he's writing, all of that is going to be a factor in a year from now when we hear what comes out, and it'll be interesting to see. I worry about it, but I don't know. Artists have a way of really doing some amazing shit. So,
I know from the mastering angle, I know that our friend Greg Calby, who Sharon manages or books, like he's been super busy. So, you know, and Dave, I guess you've had, you know, you've had the records out. So records are definitely coming out. It's not like, you know, records have stopped, but is there going to be a point like 3 months down the road? Is that when the shit slows down? I wonder if it's just a little, you know what I mean? Because the records have been done, you know, in the mixing process. Like I'm mixing remotely on all these records. And I will say my observation about that is I can tell the people at the other end Dropbox or the WeTransfer. I could tell everybody's kind of a little nutty about the quarantine, you know, because it's not like the old freewheeling days from like 6 months ago where you mix remote and everybody's psyched. Yeah, listen in the car, drive around, do this. Now it's like everybody's like, oh shit, I gotta listen right now. Oh, you know, people are kind of a little more intense. So I think it's a little different. But records are coming out for now. So there is stuff going on, you know.
Yeah, but records will lead up to putting out a record. You need like, I don't know, you guys would know 3, 4 months, 5 months before a record comes out. So records are coming out, but John, do you know a lot of studios that are open?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be in Nashville June 6th at Omni. I mean, they're open. Nashville seems like it's
I don't
open.
know. I spoke to Nashville and there were studios that weren't open.
Oh,
And
wow.
in New York, no one's open. Electric
Yeah,
Lady.
I actually play in a band on the side, and we were supposed to go in to start a new EP. We booked time in May, and the head of the studio, who's a friend of mine, he's just like, "I'll refund you, man." He's like, "But I'm not." He's like, "I got a kid, and I'm not getting sick."
Yeah.
And actually, the singer in my band, she had it and was like sick as a dog. She went to the hospital at one point, and her day job is a professional backup singer, so her whole income is shot, and she's definitely not a core part of the band. But we lucked out. We did a show at Brooklyn Bowl the last date in February, and we just happened to, they're like, "Do you want to multi-track it?" And normally we just feel like it's a scam, but we're like, "Yeah, fuck it, it's a sold, like this show, like we're opening up for somebody else," and it sold out, so we're like, "Yeah, that'll be cool to listen to." And now we're like, "Yo, we got to mix this, we got to figure out what to do," because like who knows if because we've tried to rehearse remotely and bounce ideas off of each other, but it's like we're all working for now, we're all trying to balance our family lives, and it's like,
Well,
it's like trying to make a record in jail is what it's like.
yeah. Hey, so here's what, today I did a session today at my studio. Billy and John know where it is. And when you come into the studio, it's like perfectly set up where you come in, you can walk right into the live room. You don't have to come in the control room where I am. I preset the room. It was one artist, solo artist, who played piano, acoustic guitar, and piano, and sang. A great artist that Johnny and I worked with, Willie Nile. And it was, somebody filmed it, right? It's for one of these, you know, it was filmed so he can put it up online, and it's a concert, right? But I got to tell you that the guy who filmed it was getting too fucking close to me. And he wore a mask, and I thought to myself, I don't want to do this. You know, I had to, you know, do one of these. And he was certainly nice. He wore a mask, and he was very professional, really good at what he did. But I was like, really? Like, do I have to subject myself to a guy getting too close to me? And so I really kind of second guess, like wanting to keep my studio open. And I love Willie, and the guy was great. Unless there's just like, people come in the room, you give them the rules and say, you know, stay away, wear the mask, wash your hands. I mean, maybe that's the way we have to adapt to making music now and being in a studio. But you guys are in bands. I can't see, like, how do you get a band in a room, you know?
Yeah, I think that solo singer-songwriters, people that do a lot of the project on their own, they definitely are ahead of everybody else, because there's no politics, there's no like vibe or anything. You know, I play in an R&B group, and it's like the bass always generally is coming first before even the lyrics sometimes. And it's like, you got to kind of vibe that out and feel it out. And then there's multiple rehearsals where you fine tune things, and then you want to play it live to see how the react is. And now it's just like, it's totally backwards. And we're at a point where we're just like, well, at least we have this one project that we worked on, a couple of demos. Maybe we can kind of polish these and put them out there for what they are in the time being. And we're D-list adjacent. I mean, we're nowhere, you know, in terms of bands. But I think for if you're an artist, Kobi, like you're a little ahead of the curve right now, because you have all this time, you're on your own. You might have something, maybe you're not looking for like the most inspirational song you've ever written, but like you have the time to focus and not have to battle with anybody or like conflicting schedules. So you're kind of got like a jump start in this race of whatever Q4 looks like.
I've been thinking lately, it's definitely a good time to be a solo artist.
But dude, you're also lucky, Kobe, because you can do your thing solo acoustic almost as a singer songwriter troubadour. But then when you put your band together, it's like you're a different fucking group. I mean, you can be like you're fucking Carlos Santana one minute, and the next minute you're like Bob Dylan with a guitar. I mean, it's like like you have that luxury where you don't need a band necessarily to pull off 7-8 songs. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is a luxury for sure.
Yeah.
Because when I tour, I don't have to worry about bringing out a whole crew,
Horn section,
or whatever. It's just myself and a tour manager and a sound guy, and that's all I need, really.
Yeah.
So
totally.
But all those other problems still come into play big time.
Yeah, no doubt.
But for the labels, for promotion, for radio stations, without new content, and John disappeared on us, but without new content, which will happen in 3 or 4 months, whatever, 5 months.
Yep.
Then how does what's everyone doing without content?
We got, I think
above my pay grade.
I think at a company like Dave Warner, I won't speak for you. I mean, they have a lot. I mean, there's a lot of repertoire there. It's just about stacking it up and scheduling it properly, I think. Am I wrong, Dave?
Well, to my point about Dua, she chose to put a record out. Some artists didn't, right? So some artists are still sitting on them. So that's giving us time to figure out how, when, and what kind of sprinkle we can put on it, right? But then at the same time, we've been very aggressive in signing because we're one of the smaller majors, and we've got a new A&R team. So a lot of the stuff we're signing is artists that have blown up on Spotify, or they've blown up on TikTok or something like that. And they come with music that all we need to do right now is enhance it. And then we get them into the studio. So it doesn't feel like there's a concern for us right now in our meetings. We're not talking about what's going to happen on that day when we don't have music. It's more, we're still in the mode of how are we going to schedule all of this, and what's the air traffic control look like on a monthly basis going forward, because there is still so much in the can and still so much more coming, and a lot of artists are recording at home. So I don't sense that yet, but I think that a lot of these conversations today will be really interesting to revisit in 3 months, because to Rich's point, we could every day we're proven wrong one way or the other, but right now it doesn't feel like there's going to be a lack going forward from us.
Right. Also, what about people talking about doing remixes? There's stuff in the can, making new versions of stuff that exists. Is that, anyone heard about that?
That's a Dave Dyer question, but I was going to say, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, the remixes that we are dealing with are records that are either out that we want to be able to get to mix show or something like that. Remixing stuff in the can, it wouldn't even come up in a meeting that I would be in, because that's really still living in the A&R world.
Right.
So if they feel like they need to, but I think to your point before, a new sound hasn't been established yet, and if it happens, and I hope it does, it's probably going to live in the alternative world, because that's where that leadership is coming from, and I think it could be really fun if that happens, and it should. We need an answer to disco. We need a Nirvana, something that's going to change the game a little bit,
shake it up.
So I hope that happens, but no one's trying to remix anything yet because that sound hasn't emerged. It's not like, oh, this sounds old now, because music.
Right, but something like that really is sort of fed by people being together. The alternative world is like rock bands, people together. I would almost think that if there is a new sound, it's going to come from a more technical side of things, where people can work at home and work by themselves, and that. And I just wonder how that's going to play out,
Stewart, this could be the reemergence of 1980 new music seminar, keyboard driven bands, remember, Guitars Are Dead.
Yeah.
Remember that whole
Thompson Twins.
No, but even before that, just So it could be that. But the other thing I will say about your remix stuff is, remember we had Kurt Vile on a few months ago, and he was talking about like the 15th or 10th anniversary of one of the records, and he's delving into the concept of like reissuing the 10-year anniversary with extra tracks, and you know what I mean. So there's always that stuff that people can do. I mean, if you're talking about reissues, so I think that's an option.
Yeah, I think the other thing is like that we're not considering is a year from now, someone is going to work on, a washable N95 mask, one of those higher end things that maybe solve some of these interim problems. Or everyone keeps talking about a vaccine. I'm assuming we don't get one. And that's sort of where my head's at, like, oh, just a lot of us are gonna have to get sick like the last pandemic, and it's gonna be horrible. But if there's some sort of technology that gets invented to facilitate closer, work environments, that may solve some of these issues. And I do think that that can do American ingenuity spirit, someone's going to come up with some way of some kind of a shortcut to alleviate some of the issues. I don't think this is sustainable for like 2 years.
How about the COVID suit of armor?
Yeah, that works. It's a body condom. with or without lube, up to you. Yeah.
Lube or lube? Because I prefer my condom without lube.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, on that note.
They brought the room down.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
Sorry.
We always count on you.
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, I don't know, Billy. What do you think? We got anything else?
Yeah, no, I think it was good. Rather than I think we're a good hour and 20 in. I think we got a little piece of everybody's kind of action. Having a couple of really talented artists on, as well as someone representing the radio side, and having Dave, who I respect as much as anyone as far as his opinion and knowledge as far as the record business goes. I think it was a good, smart group of people. And then there's you and Stewart. So this was good.
Wow.
So well put.
Billy, I'll see you around the building. Okay.
Yeah,
I bet you will.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
This together, man.
Vinny, take care. Oh, and
Thanks
Vinny,
for having me.
Vinny, wait,
Thanks.
wait, Vinny. Congratulations. Vinny just found out he's about to be a father.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
I'll bring to that, Vinny.
Yeah.
And
Boy or girl?
yeah, Vinny.
It's a boy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow. Hey, so just before we go, just a quick shout out for tonight. If anyone's interested, this is for y'all and for Facebook, that Eventide is having the great Shelleyakis live on air. It's a Shelleyakis event at 7 p.m. and it's called Ask Shelley Anything. And there's a sign up link on the Eventide Facebook page. And that really sounds great for anyone who knows Shelleyakis. He is the man. We had him on a couple of weeks ago. But Ask Shelley Anything tonight at 7 o'clock, the Eventide Facebook page.
Love it. And also Gottlieb has a 2-year-old. And Kobi, how old's your daughter? 2. So we got two 2-year-olds, and Davey's got a baby, almost 1-year-old, brand new French bulldog. So we're in good shape.
Apocalypse babies.
And Billy's kid's going to college.
That's right.
Yes.
And my kid's going to high school. What?
I know.
Nice.
Fucking scary.
I don't know if he's going to college, dude. The way it's going right now, I'm gonna have to pay for it with I don't know what I'm gonna do. I got shit to sell though.
You're gonna have to teach him, Billy. You're gonna have to be his teacher now.
Oh no, dude. That's probably not a good plan.
Oh no, that's a scary thought. Poor Dylan.
All right, see you guys.
Great to meet you guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay with us.
Later.